Hello everyone, I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. People all around the world know Basile as the Greek comedian. He's really embraced his heritage, and on stage he'll tell a lot of stories of growing up as the only son of Greek immigrants. But Basile Katsikis is more than just a comedian. He's also an entrepreneur. He's also done a lot of voiceover and character work. And he's lent his talents to many charity events, raising money for organizations here in Wilmington and all around the country too. And Basile is now on the verge of creating a TV series that, of course, is based on his life experiences. Fresh off his UK tour, we have Basile Katsikis in our studio for the One-on-One with John Evans podcast. How are you, my friend?
Great, John. Great to be on. To be honest with you, I don't use my last name for fear of the IRS. So what I try to do, if possible, I just use my name, Basile. Right. So Katsikis didn't really have that marquee value that I was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, Basile,
Basile, that's good.
Katsikis, not so much. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything.
How was the UK, and how are those places and audiences compared to places you play in the US?
Well, you know, one of the great things about what I do is I have the opportunity to do my stand-up in English and my stand-up in Greek as well, and that's the one thing that I was always proud of, that I maintain my language. Yeah. And I do my stand-up in Greek, and it's a completely different, separation from what I do regularly that you see on television and whatnot. Right. And it's like really half Greek, half English, and it's the double entendres and all the silly words that have been used one way or the other. And of course, the English think I'm brilliant. Everything I do is brilliant.
Do. Anybody who can speak a second language to me is brilliant.
Oh my God, brilliant! I tell you, mate, brilliant. So I love it. I go there. I think I'm the smartest person in the world when I'm there.
Yeah, so. You're definitely the smartest one in the room when you're there. That's for sure. Dysfunctionally Yours is the name of the tour.
Yes.
And how did it go? I mean, how did you develop Dysfunctionally Yours?
I wound up actually, when I went to England, it was the Greek Spice Boy Cometh.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I saw that with Glee in the UK.
Right. So when I did that, that was great. My general audience show that I wind up doing is called Basile Dysfunctionally Yours. And I talk about all the dysfunctions that we all have in a family, but in a really nice way. Mm-hmm. My parents, great people, both immigrants, came from Greece, the United States. They met here, however. My mother, father, great senses of humor. My mother, Rosemary, father, Herb.
Herb named you Basile.
Basile, yeah.
Right.
So listen, you've been watching my act.
We all know that's a joke because we know that your folks actually ran a restaurant.
Big surprise that Greeks would actually have a restaurant, and this is something new for the entire system.
Really?
Who knew that we could actually serve people? Ever since the Greeks finally came here, even in Wilmington, let's take the greater Wilmington area, they started coming here in the late 1800s. Mm-hmm. Because Greeks were always on an island, there's a lot of water, and we're right on the ocean here. So Greeks would come here, and they had all these restaurants, and they were taught by their mothers and fathers when they were in Greece how to cook. Do you know how many servicemen survived this first, second World War, Korea, Vietnam? Because as soon as they saw an AS, an IS, an OS, or an IOU at the end of your name meant that you were Greek. It says, you're Greek? Yeah, come with me, you're in the kitchen.
Yeah, there you go.
And, they're in the back of the lines. And it really was my uncle Larry, my great-uncle Larry, my grandfather's brother, served in the Second World War. And he was in the kitchen for like 3 years. Wow. And he begged to see service. So what happens? They give him this, finally, his commanding officer said, all right, Larry, we're going to let you go. Right. What does he do? First place, he goes to one of the camps, to these poor Jewish camps that they were, these camps, and they were death all over. He goes, what the heck was I thinking about? This is what I wanted. And it's a true story. Yeah. He really went there and he saw that and he says, I want to go back in the kitchen. That's all I wanted.
You grew up in New York, New Jersey, right?
I was actually born in Jersey. I was raised in Long Island, New York. Went to school, played a little ball at Purdue, and then wound up finishing up at Cleveland State, and went to law school at Case Western Reserve.
Now every kid growing up in the Northeast, I grew up in Pennsylvania, you grew up in Jersey, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, everybody thinks they're a comic when they're a teenager. Hey, you want to hear a dirty joke? The pig fell in the butt. You know what I mean? Yeah, really.
John will be here all week.
All week. But you wanted to be an attorney? You wanted to play sports?
I was a failed athlete. I got hurt. It was pretty tough for me to actually sit there and go, oh my God, I thought it was going to be all that in a bag of chips. Yeah. Dad, the NFL, no problem. I'm going to probably do about 5-6 years in the NFL. And no. Yeah, I got hurt so bad it was pretty. I was in a brace.
High school?
High school that led into college.
Okay.
And then I got so banged up I just couldn't play anymore.
Right.
It's even to this day I have problems with my right hip and my knee. But it's just part of life. And you grow up and then you realize, oh my God, what am I going to do now? You have all these dreams and aspirations, and you knew that you were going to do this, and all of a sudden, the good guy upstairs says, I'm going to throw you a little wrench, see what you do with it. Yeah, I could have been an attorney, but would you have me represent you? Okay, enough said.
No, I know you for almost 30 years.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't.
So sad.
But you did at least want to pursue legal for a while, right?
Yeah, I thought politics. I got a chance to work in Washington, D.C. I got a chance to work on Capitol Hill, worked at DOD for a while, which was nice as well. That was part of the Basile suit days. But I was always having jokes, and I was the guy who was always cutting up, and but in a nice way.
Right.
I was never nasty to people or whatever. And then one day, my mom passed, and my one cousin says, you got to get on stage. And he made me a deal. He made me a bet, $20, which was a lot of money back then,
right.
folks. And this is like the mid 80s. I said, what do you want me to do? He says, I'm throwing you $20, get on stage, I bet you can't win. And my ego is still like this thick. And I'm like, heck, you can't.
Just a comedy club up there?
It was a comedy club doing open mic night. And I said, yeah, I'll go. And I wound up going. I prepared, 4 or 5 minutes. And was, I'm personality driven. Even in my shows today that I wind up doing, I'm personality driven. I always like goofing off with the audience. And that's why my show is always like a different ball of wax every time. You saw me at the, the White Pants event.
White Pants, yeah.
Which I love doing.
Yeah.
But that didn't really show any comedic. I just could, yell louder than everyone else and get them to bid.
But it also allows you to play with the audience. You were the MC there. You were the auctioneer there.
Yes.
You, like I, are a part-time auctioneer. When they ask us to, we can do it. But yeah, you do a lot. Even in the clips that I watch online on your website, you do a lot of interaction with the audience, and it kind of drives you in different ways at different times.
As long as you know that you have the material. If you're going to wind up making a left for no reason whatsoever, you better have some material there to take you there, and then you can improvise a little bit with it. And I've always loved doing that.
Yeah.
That's the way I write as well. I'll tell you, throw me a story. When your kids and my kids, all they went to the same schools and stuff like that. And when I was with my kids and we had other kids in the back seat, we would do a storyline. So I said, once upon a time, Johnny went down the street and he fell into, and also I give it to my daughter. And Zacharula would sit there and start doing a few words. And then whatever other kids were in the backseat, they would throw in, and we would create, I'd try to teach them how to, kind of improvise and be off the fly whenever you can. And to me, it's what I do.
That's neat. And so your first night, you get up on stage. Do you remember that night like it was yesterday?
I have it on tape.
Do you really?
I have it on tape because my cousin says, we got to keep this for blackmail purposes, Little did I know there was going to be a guy who was, remember America's Funniest Videos back in the day?
Yeah, Bob Saget did it.
Bob Saget did it, but one of the exec producers was a guy named Dino Vince, who was the owner. Next thing I know, he said, hey, you're funny. How about opening up for, and I can't remember who the acts were and stuff. There was a bunch of different acts that came in, no one big names and stuff like that. And I said, sure. Hey, what do you need me to do? He goes, just do 5 minutes and then do another 5 minutes and then bring the guys up. Sure. And I created the whole thing like, this is my show. I just happen to have a couple of guests with me. Nice. And that was the attitude that I wound up having. And to me, that was a lot of fun.
And that was back in 1990, wasn't
No,
it?
this is like back in the late 80s.
Late 80s?
Late 80s. And I started doing it. I said, who knew? I graduated college. I was going to law school. And I'm like, but when you confuse torts for French pastry, you got to get out of the biz, I'm saying?
When did you think that I might be able to make a career out of this? Was there one night? I mean, you had to be proud the first night that you got asked back.
Yeah.
But when did Basile say, this might be a way I can make a living out of this?
Actually, I didn't think that for about a half a year. I kept going back because I met some really fantastic people and comedians that I've met. I mean, I started off with guys like Steve Harvey. So Steve Harvey did our first Showtime special together. Yeah. And I wish I would have sent you that bloody picture. Oh, for God's sakes. But it was me, Steve Harvey, Mike Vedovan, Bertice Berry, Special K. We all went up there and we knocked boots. It was great. Harvey and I got the nod up to move up, and we did. Then I met my wife, Kula.
Right.
And whenever you meet a woman, it just goes to hell right there in a handbasket.
But she, like my wife Sheila, and we've known each other since the
Years.
girls were at First Presbyterian
Sure.
Preschool. And I don't want to diverge too much, but I give my wife, because of all the hours that I worked building a career, how much is Kula so imperative in your success? Because you've got to go, well, you're just telling me, you've got to go to LA this weekend, you're going to Myrtle Beach the next couple of days to fill in. You can't do that without strength at home.
Well, I wish I could give her the credit, but I'm not going to. And the thing is, no, of course.
Yeah.
Without my wife, I'd probably be nothing.
Yeah.
Same thing with you.
Yeah.
Because you and I are kind of cut from the same cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids are our first priority. So if it means us doing what we do or taking care of our kids, we take care of our kids. But how lucky are we that we have the opportunity to fall back on someone like our wives, and also the family system that we have, to go ahead and actually take care of the kids, to allow me to go out to do the things I do, to allow me to do a tour in the UK, or to go to Australia for 5 weeks, or to go to whatever, and you wind up doing these things. Of course you have to have a strong, and for all the men watching in here, I'm not joking. I mean, I kid around a lot when I talk about my wife, Kula. Mm-hmm. But without her, we're both same boat. We're nothing.
Yeah, we did. We both got out over our skis.
Oh, no two ways.
And really, had it not been for Sheila being as strong, and I know Kula's the same way, we're working trying to build a career, and without that back home, our kids are successful, your kids are successful. I mean, it's just, you look back at 30 years since we've been here, and we were just talking before we rolled that the kids are getting so old now, and I've got a grandchild, and your kids are growing up and getting big time jobs and everything.
Yeah, it was kind of nice because my friends are always going, "Are you a grandparent yet?" I said, No, I'm too beautiful to be a grandparent. Can you imagine me as a grandfather?
Do you know what you're going to be called when you are a grandfather?
In Greek?
Yes.
Papou.
Oh, there you go.
Papou. Okay. What do they call you?
Well, Pop. He can't really talk much yet, but that's what we're going to have him call me, is Pop, because that's what my dad was, and that's what
which is great. You know, sometimes I heard me mom, Peepaw, and I'm like, I don't about that. But in Greek, it's Yaya, which is grandmother, Papou, which is grandfather. And it's kind of funny. We have friends of ours that are not Greek, but they've always loved that Papou and Yaya. Yeah. So even though they're as white as white can be, they sit there and they go, "I'm Papou, that's Yaya," and the kids all know him as Yaya and Papou, which I think is great.
Great tradition. It's fabulous the way that you have kept that front and center, and so many of the. As I was doing a little bit of research for this, I look back at so many times you appear on Vegas TV or Sarasota TV, and they always say, as the intro, "Well, my big fat Greek wedding. Well, here's Basile, the Greek comedian."
Yeah, and I'll go my big fat Greek. Okay, we got it. What a transition.
You have embraced your lineage. Sure. But did it ever come to a time where you're like, I wish they wouldn't say big fat Greek wedding and just say Basile the comedian?
Sometimes you really, it's kind of funny because when Nia Vardalos actually, and I know Via very well, and when she did the big fat Greek wedding, I didn't know her at that time. Right. The movie just came out. It was an underground success. Yeah. And she was going at the Montreal Comedy Festival. And to be honest with you, it really did help my career in a way, because everyone was like this curiosity about Greeks. And I really enjoyed that. And, the only thing I was kind of disappointed, I said, all right, Nia, we got to work together, because she worked closely with Playtone, which is Tom Hanks's company and stuff. And I've always wanted to, bring and Gary as well, his partner, Gary Sussman, and to actually sit there and, because Tom wind up marrying Rita Wilson. Right. Rita Wilson is half Greek and then half Bulgarian. What a wonderfully talented lady. And the thing is, I got a chance to work with Nia on certain things. I give her a line or something like that for a show, or she goes, "Hey, do you have something?" Or if we went to go and support her shows or her movies, I would write her an email. Yeah. And I don't pester them, because I don't like, when people pester the heck out of me. Like you, kept calling me every day.
And the last time it took me too long to find your phone number the last time you changed it.
It's only been the same for 30 years, John.
I know that. When did you get into the voiceover work?
Oh, wow. I used to work for a radio station called WMMS in Cleveland, home of the buzzard. And I always could do different voices, even as a kid. Now, you got to remember, my first language is Greek. Right. So the great babysitter when you and I were babies was the TV. Yep. So they put us in front, right? and my mother would do whatever she wanted. My dad had the restaurant. Again, surprise, who knew? And I would start imitating Bullwinkle, but in Greek. So my mom was like, Basile, come here. My mom goes, okay, that's it. We got to teach him English.
We need to get a VCR.
Yeah, so what would happen was I was working with MMS, doing character voices periodically. And WMMS, if you look back in your history, was the rock and roll station of the nation, as voted by Rolling Stone magazine and all the people. And of course it was fixed because everyone in Cleveland kept pushing it.
Cleveland Rock, yeah.
Yeah, Cleveland Rocks,
Yep.
whatever. So they kept doing that, and I started doing voices. And then I started doing, and one thing led to another. I wound up getting Jeff Kinsbach, thank you, wound up going ahead and writing a letter at that time to the people who owned Bullwinkle. I don't know if I should say their names or not, but
Sure.
don't worry about it. No,
Yeah.
sorry. So they wound up saying, they sent a tape in. And next thing you know, they're redubbing, fixing some of the old Bullwinkles, because some of the old cartoons that were made, because Bullwinkle, a lot of people don't know, was actually produced in both in Australia and in Mexico to avoid the high union costs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what was happening, if you look at the cartoon, it's so simple. It's like opening his mouth
Right,
like
yeah.
there's no critical lip
Yeah.
movement like you see in Japanese anime today, right?
Yeah.
So, I would sit there, and then, they said Bill Scott was the original voice. He passed away, and so we need someone to go ahead and do this. So they threw my name in there, and it was really cool because I got a chance to work with June Foray, who was the voice of Rocket J. Squirrel, and
Classic
what I mean,
cartoons.
this tall.
Yeah.
She was this tall, mouth like a sailor, and
Yeah.
you just sat there and I did a series of Taco Bell commercials for him, and it was just really, really cool to be with her and to work with her. And I kept flubbing a line, and she said a couple of expletives that I can't really repeat. But we went out drinking later, folks.
There you go.
So.
And she has been one of the most successful voiceover.
One of the best.
Yeah.
One of the
in
best.
years and years.
And then I wound up doing a lot of Japanese anime as well, that we even did here in Wilmington, believe it or not. There was a company called Southwind Studios that used to be here. So I did, I played incidental roles because I couldn't play major roles because I was always gone.
Right.
So I would do all, here we got these 5 characters. Can you do this? Can you do these characters here? So I take a picture and I look, I'm like, yeah, I could do these guys. I figured this is what they would sound like. And they're so intricate to do Japanese anime because the lip movement is already there. You have to try and fit the voice into that lip movement, or you're going to have a really bad Godzilla-like movie where it's going to be, oh, Mothra.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what?
Instead of them building it to the voice, you build it to the.
A lot of people don't know when they create an animated feature, they actually, draw everything except for the expressions on the eyes and the lip movement, so the animator can go around what he or she actually hears. So I'm sitting there, but when it's Japanese anime, it's reversed. I got to be able to fit these words. So you might have a phrase like, and meanwhile the guy really said, oh yeah, really? How do you fit
really.
that in there? So you do the best you can.
The 30 for 30.
Oh, that was great. That was my real big.
How did that all come about? Because when you're voicing Bullwinkle, and all of a sudden it's just so much on the other side of entertainment.
I wound up getting a phone call by a wonderful woman here in town, and she knew this gentleman who I happen to know. His name is George Veras, who is the CEO of the NFL Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And he goes, who would be really good at this because he does a lot of voices? A guy who lives near you. And he goes, who's that? And her name is Wendy Yamano. Wendy, if you're listening, I'm giving you some kudos back.
Thank you, Wendy.
And Wendy Yamano reached out to me and says, hey, George Veras actually, who wound up actually working with Jimmy the Greek, and his last name is really Sionidis.
Right.
But, again, like Katsikis, didn't have that marquee,
So Snyder.
Yeah, Schneider. We went with Schneider. It was actually pretty cool, but I lay down some track, and they gave me the sides, and as they're looking at the sides, can you do that? And I would do a great Jimmy the Greek, because it was more of and you got to understand the dialects and the accents that go on with how they say words. From the Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio, there is a distinct type of an accent. So I did a great Jimmy the Greek. And this is one of the funniest ones. I did a great Jimmy the Greek on air, though you saw him on NFL Today on CBS with Brent Musburger, Irv Cross, and all that.
Irv Cross,
sure.
Phyllis George.
Phyllis George, and there's a funny story about that because it actually has something to do with the show that we have here, the Basile Show. So next thing you know, he says, okay, that was great. And I said, oh, thanks. I'm thinking I got the part. And he says, well, can you do it? Can you do, and I was with my manager on the speakerphone, can you do Jimmy the Greek from the dead? And you're like, you want the gig? I'm like, yeah, sure. Had no idea what the heck they were talking about.
Right.
They wanted someone who was more sorrowful and really felt bad about the way his life went.
Right.
And if you really listen to it, and listen, I did the actual voices of Jimmy the Greek within, as they were interviewing Irv Cross and Brent Musburger and everyone else, Phyllis George, whomever they had. It was really, really cool for me to go ahead and fill those voices in, and it got nominated for an Emmy. And I was really excited.
I was going to say,
I was ecstatic
when you get that call that it's nominated for an Emmy.
Because listen, you know how much competition is out there.
Yes.
You know, you're in the news industry. Yep. I mean, and the people over there, sometimes you don't really have an idea as to what people really go through in my industry.
Yeah.
But it's so wonderful to actually go ahead and you get, hey, great job. What a way, you really filled it. And I knew I had something going because I made them cry in the studio when I was doing this, and it was really, really cool because it was a very, very tough moment where his mother and his aunt were killed by a deranged uncle because the uncle thought that the aunt was having an affair and killed both the mother. And he was only 10.
Yeah.
Only had a 10th grade education. And he lost millions, like 5-6 times in his life.
Yeah.
You know, became destitute, wealthy, but he was known for the big game. I think it was Notre Dame and Great Lakes University, which no longer exists, for the national championship, and Great Lakes won.
Yeah.
And he was the great odds maker after that.
It really was, and you know, to reach that pinnacle of being nominated with the best is just a huge kudos.
It is. You know, it really was. And you know, it's kind of funny because a lot of people don't know that I live here, right? So now that you blew it for me, I appreciate it. I came out of the closet, folks, and that's one heck of a closet.
How did you land here?
Kula.
Yeah.
Kula. I said, hey, you know, I asked her to marry me. I fell head over heels in love, and I asked her to marry me. I said, let's go to Cleveland. Oh, you ever been to Cleveland in January, February? And I thought she'd dig it. You know, oh my God, it's snow and it's everything. I put on nice clothes and you know,
it's 5 below.
Yeah, it's 5 below.
It's a heat wave.
Oh my God, 5 below. We pray for 5 below.
Yeah,
you know.
really.
But we actually had a wonderful time, and then she said, she was real honest about it. She goes, Baze, if you want me to marry you, I'll marry you, but you got to come down here. And I understood, because if we were going to have children, how could I possibly even think about keeping her up there with no one except my mom and dad, and her to be by herself with no real friends that she had, her own friends that she grew up with. So I said, yeah, I travel a lot. That makes sense. In the first year, John, I'm not going to lie to you, it was tough because I'm a huge Indians fan. Yeah. I'm a huge Cleveland Browns fan. I know. I feel you're okay. Yeah. Jets and Yankees as well, and I needed. I used to go to all the Cavs games. I used to go to all the Indians games. I used to go to the Browns games, and here I'm going nowhere, to a bar to watch them play, and that was really tough for me. Yeah. But then I learned how to scuba dive. I learned how to fish. I'm a terrible golfer, so it doesn't.
You learn how to say y'all.
Y'all, and then of course, they always look at me when these people are just like. I remember when I first came here, and the first thing I was missing from our church was like, how come you guys don't have a Greek festival? And they said, why don't you look into it? I'm like, oh man, keep your mouth shut from now on. What the heck was I thinking?
Open mouth, insert foot, and chew.
Oh my gosh. And so I did a little bit of research. I really didn't know the community all that well. Right. But I figured people are people. And I'll never forget these naysayers in the beginning. I was with a good friend of mine, John Saris, God rest his soul, and he was about 30 years my senior. He goes, come on, I'll help you. I'm from Cleveland too. Come on, let's do this. And I said, fine. And it was a great team. And we put together a great team of individuals within our community. Yeah. Many of you know who they are. And if because I'm going to leave out a name here or there, and I don't want to do that. But the community got together, and we created the Greek Festival. But I'll never forget in the beginning, he says, it'll never work, Basile. You're gonna make these Southern people go ahead and eat souvlaki, and they're gonna have a gyro and stuff like that. I said, listen, what we're gonna do is I have that figured out. They go, how are you gonna do it? We're gonna serve it with barbecue sauce. And they all went, I go, no, we're going to do an ethnic festival, for
Yeah.
God's sakes. So we did the festival, and for the first 4 or 5 years, I was in charge of it. And then I became, kind of like the spokesperson for the Greek
Yeah.
Festival, doing all the commercials, and I knew all the media as well. And it was, it was very easy to do.
Oh, and it's been so successful.
Oh, it's been a
and
wonderful
I have
treat.
to diet like 2 weeks before that festival every year because whenever we get a reporter to go over there, they bring back one of everything. And the entire newsroom just has this glorious odor in
Yes,
it all day long.
a glorious odor. I've never
is.
put those two things
Well,
together.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not a cook, I'm an eater. You're so deep into the community. In 2016, you were the principal honoree of the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association.
Where did you get this?
I do my research, buddy. 2018, you helped raise more than $17,000 for a school in Illinois. This year, you did the Last Chance for the White Pants event.
Wow.
What drives you to do that kind of work?
God. It's kind of funny. I was always a nut. I was always a crazy guy. I was the one who was the athlete who would jump all over the place, jump over piles and go crazy. I was always one pushing the envelope within reason. Always respectful to my elders and to my teachers. But you know what? I just kind of dig it. I really do. There's a lot of organizations, Greek and non-Greek, who need help. And I have a certain talent like you, and we have the opportunity to go ahead and to help these organizations. And I figure, why not? If you have the talent and the drive to go ahead and do it, and I don't care if it's Greek, like I said, or non-Greek, or whatever the case is, hey, can you do us a solid? Can you do this? Can you help raise money for the kids? Can you do, what am I going to say, no? Of course I can. What am I going to sit? I'm telling them, well, I can't. I'm going to be sitting with my feet propped up having a beer. I wish I could help. Yeah, you don't do it. You do it for the good. And I've been blessed with a talent, and I might as well use this talent. And I love this community. If there's anything I can do for the community, I try to do my very best to do it, like you.
Well,
And,
the thing of it is, and what I've said to a lot of people is, with our work, because like I said, you're going away for a couple of days, or you're going here, going there, and with my schedule, I can't get to early morning meetings. So my way of helping is MC, moderate, do the things, because we can't get in on the grassroots level. You did on the festival, but in so many of these other things, if my big mouth can help, I'll do whatever I can.
And we're, like I said, we're cut from the same cloth. So if there's anything that we can do, if it's possible, if it's feasible. Now you got to understand, I'm over a 2 million mile flyer with American Airlines alone. That doesn't count Delta and United and a lot of the other airlines that I fly. So I'm getting frequent flyer miles right now, just sitting here. Okay, I don't know how I do it, but it's kind of cool because, but again, if you have the opportunity. And it's not a thing of great faith, even though I am a believer of my faith. It's not a thing, you just do it because it's the right thing to do. And if you can do it, and sometimes my wife, screams at me, says, hey, you got to slow down a little bit, whatever. Or, I do the best I can for whatever.
And I do the same thing. I run it by Sheila and say, what do you think? And she'll say, did we have a good time last year? Let's go back and do it again if we can. The same way.
You guys were, like I said, at the White Pants. It was great seeing you there.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fun time. When did you get to the point in your career, and I know everybody, you never think and you never stop trying to improve, but when was there a night where you thought, I'm pretty good at this, or you felt accepted into the stand-up comedy union, if there was one?
There was. There was a thing called the PCA back in the day. But when your peers look at you, like a lot of comics will go up on stage and they try to be really hip, for the other comedians. I don't care about the other comedians. I've always cared about one thing, and that one thing has always been the audience.
Right.
Because the audience is paying your salary. The audience is the one who's coming back. The audience is the one who's buying your T-shirts and your DVDs and this and that. Your audience does it. And when your peers sit there and they look at you and go, oh man, Basile killed this place. Oh man, it feels good. It feels like, and then when you do these major shows, if it's the Tonight Show or if it's a Showtime special or if it's an HBO thing or whatever the case is, it feels good. People, and I don't sit there and go, I'm Basile.
Yeah.
You know, I only do that at home, and it gets me nowhere. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm the same exact way. And as my kids got older, I got less and less down the ladder of importance in my house, and you're the same way.
Well, it's like I could win an Academy Award, and Kula would say, "Hey, take out the garbage." I said, "I just won an Academy Award." That's nice. Yeah. Take out the garbage.
Yeah, Dad, tune my TV. It doesn't work.
I'm having problems with the Wi-Fi. I don't know what to do. What do you do? I'm kind of like, all right.
Can you explain Basile's Greek-style seasonings to me? The success of that?
You know, John, there's going to be a lot more coming out. I have kind of always kept low, especially with the production company and stuff like that. People are very close to me, will ask. And I had to keep low because we didn't cut the deal yet, or we were very, very close to cutting the deal, or I wasn't allowed to say anything. With the Basile Foods, because I want to bring food and entertainment together, because it goes together.
Right.
You know. So one day a guy approached me from Montreal and he goes, "Hey, I really would love for you to try some of my seasonings." Okay. You know, hey, I got a bottle of vodka. I want to name it after you. Yeah. Your ego can get over him. You just go crazy. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay. And he had some seasonings. And of course, I go to my mother-in-law, Big Dina, and I said, "Dina, you got to help me out with this." "Yes, I tell you. I say what you need to do." Okay. So it took us, I called it my baby because it really took us like 9 months to go back and forth and to send his seasonings back. And so we need more of this and more of that. And we came up with 5 wonderful seasonings. Basile Foods is my company that we have here. And we took a step back because we wanted to make sure that we integrate the food into the sitcom that we have right now. Yeah. And we want to repackage. So now that we're in the process of kind of repackaging, we started developing frozen foods, Greek-style frozen foods. But it was never a name that you could remember. It was always like, and I don't want to go through all the competitors' names and stuff like that, but there was never one guy who was the person, like Chef Boyardee. Right. You knew was cheap spaghetti in a can. Yeah. Right? Yes. Paul Prudhomme, whatever. You knew, you saw Paul Prudhomme, you knew it was some type of Cajun style thing. Yeah. There was never any type like that for Greek. So listen, my name lends itself to food, Basile. Right. All right. And so I said, all right, why don't we do Cooking with Basile, and that's part of the name of the show that we're doing. And I said, how about if we wind up doing this and we bring this element? And one thing led to another, and these seasonings were really good. And then we started being all over in supermarkets up north, in the north region, some down south in the Florida region as well with Publix. Yeah. We tried to get them in here, and we did get them in here with Lowe's Foods. It was great. Yeah. Then after a while, I couldn't keep up with. There's a lot of politics that goes on, and a lot of things that go dirty stuff. I caught a guy one time, and I'll tell you what company it was. He goes, he's pulling my actual case. It was a stand-up case, a standalone case, and he's putting it to automotive. And I don't know if you remember, automotive section. A friend of mine who used to work, Brian and Jim. I don't know if you know. Okay, Brian. Don't look, guys. So so all of a sudden he goes, "Hey man, saw your spices. I was going to get some grease for my car. Just saw your seasonings right there." And I'm like, oh, that was nice. It's exactly where it should be. So we wind up telling this guy, don't touch our stuff again. But it's a very, very dirty business, you know. So, but now the thing is all based on distribution. If you can find the right distribution to it, so that's what we try to do.
You mentioned the TV show, and the episode that's on that I watch is just hilariously funny. The looks alone are worth the price of admission, which is a click and a couple other clicks. But it really is well done. Where is all that standing now?
Right now, we signed a deal with Amazon Prime. We're very excited about that. I needed to bring it here. And the reason why I want to bring it here, I'm going to be real honest with you. We have some of the greatest talent in the world right here in Wilmington. Yeah. I know it's a right to work state. And because now we're in the process of going ahead, and instead of giving it to a network or whatever, and we have the option after we do the deal with Amazon, is to go ahead and license this. So every licensing deal that you have in every country, may it be in Australia, may it be throughout the United Kingdom or any country throughout Europe, every deal is different. So you don't know what you're going to get. And if you license, the cheapest thing usually winds up selling. Yeah. So, or being licensed. So it's important for us to keep the bottom line
Sure.
really close to the ground.
That's just business sense.
It's business to do it. But to pay the people that work for you, really, well, I can't afford New York's, prices. I mean, to go ahead and rent Kaufman is ridiculous, Kaufman Studios. Where I can do it down here at Screen Gems is night and day.
Yeah.
To get my day actors here, beautiful. I can still bring my SAG-AFTRA actors down here. And I'm really happy that I could say that my actual group of people, my actors, they loved it down here. When we cut, that sizzle that you saw, they got the biggest kick out. Yeah, I know. And what we want, it's a dysfunctional thing, dealing with an irascible father and dealing with a guy my age, having to deal with a parent who's still living and is making you go crazy. Yeah. That's what life is all about.
Yeah, you ask you about the cougar. You're trying to explain the cougar with the glass of wine. Hilarious. That's the funniest part in that whole funny system. Just Google Basile TV and look at that sizzle reel. But Amazon.com, we're looking at that pretty soon.
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
Amazon
Prime. So we're very excited about that because also the food's involved in it.
Yeah.
And dealing with the two, actually we have two production companies, and they're letting me be the lead as far as the lead writer. Created based on, because a lot of that stuff is based on my material.
Sure.
And I wanted something that was going to be different. I wanted something that was going to be different. I want to do it here. I've been always proud that all of our t-shirts are made here in Wilmington. All of our products that we have, my website, everything we do here from Wilmington. Why would I want to take it anywhere else when we have the greatest talent right here in Wilmington?
First joke you ever wrote?
Oh, wow. First joke I ever wrote. I don't know if I can do it publicly.
No. How about the first joke ever told?
Oh my God! It was, some of the stuff that we did. It was a lot of Greek humor because my mom, being the young kid, and I'm an only child, so my mom would always drag me to all these older people's place and stuff like that. And now, of course, I went through my bratty stage at a very, very young age, and I started. And they would start telling jokes, and they were funny, innocent jokes. They really were. But some of the jokes, I have a crazy opening. I don't know if you've ever seen my live show, because I don't do my opening I don't throw it on video. I don't put it on it. I keep it to myself. If you want to see my show, you got to come and see the opening that I do. You got to see the closing that I do, because I got a chance to work on the Chris Yamaguchi on Ice special, and I sing Friend Like Me. Yeah. But I have a different twist to it. So anyway, but first jokes, basically, I think it was the way that I used to laugh, because Flipper and Lassie were the greatest communicators. Even people could understand them, And I remember as Lassie as a kid, and Mr. Ed, my grandmother was convinced, my Greek grandmother was convinced that the dog, in Greek she would tell me, this horse can talk. And I'm looking at her like, you've lost your mind, And she goes, this is the most smartest horse. How do they do this with this horse? And I would just die laughing. Yeah. And then, and because Timmy, remember Lassie, woof, what? Woof, woof. Someone fell in a hole, woof, broke their left tibula. Oh my God, And I used to sit there die laughing. I thought to me that was the funniest thing I ever seen. But when I write material in all different, I do a thing about, getting in a healthier way of life. And, my mom would always sit there and say, you got to eat better. You got to, you got to do this. And, she says, you got to start Googling things about your body. I started Googling stuff about my body. You got to go to WebMD. I went to WebMD. And that's when I found out I'm 7 months pregnant. 7 months pregnant. Okay. Okay. So you do stuff like that is like, here's a curveball, and and then all of a sudden it's going to come as a hard slider on the inside. Yeah. That's what I try to do, is to keep you guessing which way I'm going to go. And to me, that's fun.
Is there any, you do so much with your family. You do your grandmother, you do your mom and everything. Is there anything family-wise that's off limits to jokes on stage?
It's kind of funny, John. I, like you, we have to talk about our families sometimes, but I try not to use them as a prop. You know what I'm saying? So I really try to put them to the side as much as I can. And then, my daughter, Zacharula, she works at a big company here. And she goes, I think I should be your lead actress. All these years I've been working to keep you in the sideline. Now you want to jump in. Then there's Katerina, who, has a voice of an angel.
Right.
And we really thought, she wanted to sing. And in schools where, teachers going, you're going to get scholarships. I don't know if I want to sing anymore. And my wife and I go, what the hell? We put all this money.
You could go anywhere you want to and save me about 60 grand.
No, but oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. But my kids, both, I have to say, both proud graduates of UNCW, and the education system here in North Carolina, unbelievable, especially community colleges here, Coastal Carolina, down Myrtle Beach, great. Good universities, but here in North Carolina, especially in Wilmington, oh my God, Cape Fear Community, folks, Cape Fear Community College, that's one tough school to get into because you got to make a left on Front Street. But when you do, let me tell you something. Okay, no, it's a great.
When they open the doors,
open the doors, it's great. And my good friend Jim Morton, he does a great job over there. He really, really does. So. At that place is like a magnet to pull in kids, and they really get these kids prepared those first 2 years to go anywhere they want to go, and I'm really happy about that.
Do you remember the first time that you went up on stage and tried a series of jokes and just fell flat?
Never happened. Of course.
Oh, come on, we all have bad days. I'm sure you've had one.
There have been, of course. Are you kidding me?
But how did you get over that first time that it happened?
You always take two strong bits, right? And you place the new bit in between. So if the new bit doesn't work, it's okay, I'll get you with this one. Okay. And there's going to be times when it's like life. It's like anything in life. I'm sure not every story
not every newscast.
When you and Francis are together, I'm sure not everything flows perfectly. Or your producer's sitting here going, I screwed up. And you're like, you're holding the bag. Like, really?
Sure.
Okay. It's okay, it happens. Yeah. So the thing is, people know it's live television. They know it's live whatever on stage, whatever the case may be. And they know that there's going to be times where you're just going to sit there and go, what the heck do I do now? Yeah. And you just move on. And I'll ask them, always acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
If there is, I did a show one time where there was exactly 28 people in the room. 28. I'll never forget this. I said, oh my God, what? Tens of people have come to my show, literally. And I said, please, if you go to the bathroom, don't go more than 2 people at a time because I don't want to get to 9s of people. I really don't. You acknowledge the elephant. You always acknowledge the elephant in the room, whatever the case may be. If it's a crappy design in the background, you say something about it. Yeah. And I have the ability to tease myself, and it's fine. I have no problem with that.
We had a young man here, Tony Castleberry, who wanted to get into the business, and he did some stand-up down at Dead Crow, some open mic stuff. And to watch him in the process of writing jokes, he'd come back and we'd sit around talking, how did this set go? Well, this went well, and that went well, and this didn't go well. So we tried to write another joke that went through the whole thing. What do you tell young comics who are trying to get into the business that you're in?
Get as much time as you can. I don't care where you want to do your time, get as much time. Learn. We used to sit there, Harvey and I used to sit there and look at each other, and we'd do these one-liners. And it was we call it combat comedy, CC. And so what is it? Oh man, it's nothing but CC. And you're like, oh, okay. That means you got to go in there, take the room by surprise. If it's a loud room, almost like when it was like White Pants event. Right. A lot of people drinking, partying, having a good time. But when we were trying to get those people, I started getting their attention by going over here and then going over there and making sure that they were on their toes, prepared to listen to me. I am the focal point. This is what I do. You're going to listen to me. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to make it fun for you guys. So be part of the program, bam, bam, bam. And we all had our different ways of doing that. And that was, to me, a lot of fun. It's a challenge. And I love when comics would go, oh man, they're tough. Oh man. I'm like, okay. That's all okay, then I go up. Yeah. And you blow the room away, and they go, how did you do that? I wish I could tell you, but no, I'm not going to tell you.
No, you got to learn.
You got to learn. And so the new comics that are out there, and those, because I'm going to be, you mentioned the Dead Crow, I'll be at the Dead Crow, and what a wonderful name for a comedy club. it brings a smile to your face. It could have been Jesters, or it could have been, ha-has, or whatever.
Front Street,
Front Street.
Comedy Club.
No, Dead Crow. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm going to be there. We'll talk about it before I take off. But you get as much time as you can. And even for any of the kids that are watching right now, you want to be a comic, you want to be a comic writer, that's fantastic. Start writing. A writer writes. Write. But, I write the way that I speak. big cap letters when I want to be louder,
right.
pauses with a ... You do all that. To me, that's fun. You're creating an image. The way that you saw the sizzle reel of the Basile show, I created that. I put that together. I said, we got to do it this way, and the reason why it's got to be done this way is so we can have the pause, the laughter, the facial expression, that you know that people felt uncomfortable, and that was the great thing about doing it. So for anyone who has an idea that they want to be a stand-up comedian, or they want to go into that genre of type of work, do it. Even if you're an actor, act.
Yeah.
Go into theater, local theater,
high school theater, local theater. Get on stage.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's no one's excuse except your own if you're not doing that. So.
What has social media meant to stand-up comedy? I read something a little while back that said, everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a camera in their phone, they're recording video. Is it difficult now, social media-wise? Has it built in any challenges to your business?
It's kind of funny because you have some people who really have hardly put any time into doing and working their craft, but they did something stupid that gets them, I don't know, 500,000 views. You're like, oh my God, right? I just did a thing on, am I allowed to mention?
Sure,
okay.
yes, yeah.
Laugh Factory, Hollywood, WH, or HW I should say.
Yeah.
And there are 2 segments I put, and they were just small little segments. But we got like 1.5 million views.
Right.
And they're a little bit crazy, and they're a little bit off the wall. That's my general audience show.
Sure.
But people love that. Why? And it brings them to see you live. And once they realize, oh my God, I've seen this guy like 5 times. Yeah, he does basically a lot of the stuff, but it's like thrown at you in a different way, and you don't know which way it's coming. Well, that's great. That's where you learn. That's where you can learn from your phone.
Yeah.
That's when you can sit there and go, I tape myself doing this. John, the first time they needed a tape, when we started doing comedy, send me a tape.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
It was the old VHS tapes.
Yep.
To have a videographer to come, that's what they referred to him back then, as videographers, to come was like $500. Who the heck had $500 to tape you for one set? So what I did is I actually took a box, a real box, and I actually created a stage on the inside with curtains and a checkered floor with a mic stand. And then the night before I took pictures. I took it to a 24-hour developing place to take the pictures. And I put them on some type of a mat behind it so they would stay rigid. And remember the long fireplace matches?
Yes. Yeah.
Glued them up there. And I taped the set. And I had lights, it was kind of dim, and I had these huge flashlights coming down like there were spotlights. And I had my 8x10 and everything, and I created this show using that, what were they called, Damaраmas or something like that?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I got the idea from a kid. I wasn't married then, and all of a sudden I started doing these things. I had the little tape recorder, and I put it down, and I had a sign by Basile, and also I had my headshot coming this way, then also I had the character, ladies and gentlemen, Basile, and I come up with all these different characters I had these cutouts of, and people died laughing.
Yeah.
And the first big thing that we wound up doing, I said, if you catch them off guard with something that's with, taste, they're going to laugh. So I had the thing called the Centerfold of Comedy. And it was a centerfold picture. Burt Reynolds came out back in the 70s with Playgirl, right?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to do the same thing called the Centerfold of Comedy.
Yeah.
And and it worked. And if you go to old comedy clubs that are still in existence, you'll still see my centerfold picture.
And it's on your website.
It's on my website, too. It's on the website as well, sure.
Yeah. But it's some people say that it's made it difficult because you've got to dial back some of the things. But in my view, people are going out, they should expect when they go into a comedian, right?
You wind up going, and you got to remember too that one of my biggest concerns is if I do go too crazy, I also have a huge following from the Greek Orthodox Church.
Sure.
I'm talking priests, bishops, metropolitans, archbishops, and even the big guy
upstairs.
Right, yeah, so that even I don't want to say worse, but even more important. So the thing is, you got to be able to do something within taste. And I'm also a parent. I was always a dad, and I had to be careful what my kids see.
Sure.
When Zacharula first saw me and Katerina first saw me on stage, they were crying. I guess my set wasn't as good as I thought. But no, they were crying because people were laughing. They thought that they were laughing at me, not with me.
Right.
So it's a big difference, with the two. So when they realize, and all of a sudden they go, yeah, man, it's pretty cool. Or my daughter will sit there and go, oh my God, I just saw my dad on this, and it was so cool to see him on it. To me, it's like your kids too. Listen, when you wind up doing ACT, and you and Francis were doing your coverage, and it doesn't matter what hurricane, if it was Dorian like it just passed, my heart went out to y'all because you did such a great job covering the news, letting people know what was going on. And I knew that you guys were exhausted.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
No,
yeah,
and you deserve the credit that I'm giving you.
Yeah. You are going to be at Dead Crow, and you're doing 2 sets now. You're doing one for the general audience, and then you're doing 2 nights of the Greek show.
That's true. I'm doing my Greek show on Sunday, and I think that's the 23rd.
Right.
Okay, it's on the 23rd.
Yep.
And then the 21st and 22nd, that Friday and Saturday, I'll be at the Dead Crow doing my general audience show.
Okay, 2 nights general, 1 night the Greek show.
That's correct. And then we're doing Growing Up Greek in America, which is the takeoff, which is it'll probably be about 20% Greek, about 80% English.
Yeah, you're just all over the place.
I'm running all over the place, but you know what? I love what I do, and you know as well as I do, as well as all the viewers right now. Love what you do. Never work a day in your life.
You're right. You're right.
So how fortunate are we that we have great families, that we have great jobs, and that we could still make a living doing this. And it's great for me. You and Francis. It's really, really, really cool to see. After 30 years, that we've both grown in a certain way that,
And what's better is we've got successful kids, and they're doing well.
Even better.
Strong wives, and who tell us what to do, and get us on the right interstate of life.
Yes, and I'm going for therapy right after this, to be quite honest with you, because of it.
It is so good to see you again.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
We've been friends, and I hope we continue to be friends for a long, long, long time.
We will. There's no two ways about it. Wilmington, thank you all so much. In the greater Wilmington area, North Myrtle Beach, and all those who get the signal. Thanks for all the support, and keep watching WECT.
I appreciate it, man. Good luck. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
A big thank you to Basile for sitting down for an entertaining podcast interview. To check out all things Basile, go to basilelive.com. You can watch some of his stand-up routines. You can check out his spice line. You can watch the sizzler reel of his TV show. Everything Basile is at basilelive.com. And if you're anywhere near Wilmington for November 22nd, 23rd, or 24th, make sure you get tickets to see his on-stage show at the Dead Crow Comedy Club. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please download and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever podcast app that you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. We really would like to know what you think of the interviews that we do. The more ratings and reviews we get, the higher we'll be listed on the podcast apps, the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of One-on-One.